Good afternoon. This is Kathleen Drew, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, bringing our February meeting to order. Ms. Grantham, will you call the roll?
Certainly. Department of Commerce,
Elizabeth Osborne, present.
Department of Ecology,
Eli Levitt, present.
Fish and Wildlife,
Ed Livingston, present.
Department of Natural Resources,
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission,
Stacy Brewster, present.
Local Government and Optional State Agencies for the Horse Heaven Project for Benton County, Ed Brost.
Ed Brost is present.
Badger Mountain, Douglas County, Jordan Julio.
Jordan Julio, present.
For Watoma Solar for Benton County, Dave Sharp.
Present.
The Washington State Department of Transportation, Paul Gonseth.
Paul Gonseth, present.
For Hop Hill Solar for Benton County, Paul Crouppen. For Carriager Solar for Klickitat County, Matt Childs. Assistant Attorney Generals, John Thompson. Jenna Slocum.
Present.
Zach Packer. Administrative Law Judges, Adam Torum. Laura Bradley. Dan Gerard. Joni Deerfield. For Council Staff, Sonia Bumpus. Amy Hopkemeyer.
Present.
Amy Moon.
Amy Moon, present.
Stu Henderson. Joan Owens.
Present.
Dave Walker.
Present.
Sonia Scavland. Lisa Massengale.
Present.
Sarah Randolph.
Present.
Sean Green.
Present.
Lance Caputo.
Present.
John Barnes.
Present.
Joanne Snarsky.
Present.
Alex Shiley.
Present.
Allie Smith.
Allie Smith, present.
Carl Halapa.
Alpha present.
Audra Allen. Zia Ahmed. Maria Belkina. Lisa McLean.
Present.
Adrian Barker.
Present.
And Catherine Taliaferro.
Present.
For the operational updates, Kittitas Valley Wind Project.
Jared Cassidy, present.
Wild Horse Wind Power Project.
Jennifer Galbraith, present.
Grace Harbor Energy Center. Chehalis Generation Facility.
Smith, present.
Columbia Generating Station.
Felicia Nahra Paxton, present.
Columbia Solar.
Thomas Cushing, present.
Goose Prairie Solar.
Jacob Christ, present.
And do we have anyone present for the Council for the Environment?
Yes, Sarah Reineveld and Yuri Karl are both present.
Thank you. Chair, we have a quorum for all councils.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the proposed agenda. You see before us the proposed agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed agenda?
Lenny Young, so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Eli Levitt, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Moving on to the meeting minutes of January 31st, 2024. You've had a chance to review the meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Stacy Brewster, so moved.
Second?
Mike Livingston, second.
I did not find any corrections. Is there anyone else who has any corrections to make?
This is Matt Giles, Klickitat County, and I do not see me listed as present, but I was present for that meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we should do the same for Mr. Brost, as he was present for that meeting as well. Okay, with those amendments, all those in favor of approving the minutes from January 31st, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to our facility updates. Mr. Cassidy, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Drew, FSEC Council and staff. My name is Jared Cassidy with EDP Renewables for the Kittitas Valley Wind Power Project. We have nothing non-routine to report for this period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wild Horse Wind Facility, Ms. Galbraith.
Yes, thank you, Chair Drew, council members and staff. This is Jennifer Galbraith with Puget Sound Energy for the Wild Horse Wind Facility, and I also have nothing non-routine to report for the month of January.
Thank you. Moving on to Chehalis Generation Facility, Mr. Smith. I thought I heard him, that he was there. We might have audio problem there.
I can go ahead and fill in. This is Sarah Randolph, site specialist
Can you hear
for
me now?
Chehalis.
Oh, there he is. Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Apologies. Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members and staff. This is Jeremy Smith, the operations manager representing the Chehalis Generation Facility. I have nothing non-routine to report for the month of January.
Okay, thank you. Grays Harbor Energy, Mr. Sharon.
I didn't hear him on the line earlier.
Nor did I. Go ahead, Ms. Randolph.
Okay, thank you. For the record, this is Sarah Randolph, site specialist for Grays Harbor. The facility update is provided in your packet. The ACC and application for modification for the air operating permit, or the AOP, is under review. Due to combustion issues, the CTG1 SIMS was shut down and has undergone maintenance with a corrective action plan. There are no other updates to report at this time.
Thank you. Columbia Solar Projects, Mr. Cushing.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew, council members, FSEC staff. This is Thomas Cushing speaking on behalf of Columbia Solar. There are no non-routine updates to report for the month of January.
Thank you. Columbia Generating Station and Washington Nuclear Project 1 and 4, Ms. Nahara Paxton.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. This is Felicia Nahara Paxton calling on behalf of Columbia Generating Station. We have no non-routine reports for the month of January.
Thank you. Goose Prairie Solar Project, Mr. Christ.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Drew, FSEC Council and staff. This is Jacob Christ, Senior Project Manager with Brookfield Renewable on behalf of Goose Prairie Solar. So the construction status, project remains on schedule. We were shut down for a week due to poor weather conditions. We still did take PV panel deliveries. We're up to 60 megawatts right now, DC of panels. So a little bit over halfway. Perimeter fence and tracker activities continued through January, sorry. Module installation also continues, and in the month of January, we did take delivery of all 22 inverters. For the environmental compliance, due to the weather event that shut the job down, we had significant rain and snow melt with frozen ground the week of January 22nd. Excuse me. So Basin 2, one of our basins on the west side of the property, was overcome with water. It was draining through the outflow across the road and into a farmer's field west of the project. So as a result, our contractor plugged Basin 2 and 2 sediment traps and started pumping into one of the larger basins on the south side of the project, which is the largest basin on the site. Those BMPs were maintained through that event until conditions returned to normal. The weather event and that basin too, they're both under evaluation to determine, what that weather event looked like from a storm, whether it be 25, 50, 100 year, with all the different conditions we had, and if the additional basins are needed on site to avoid this situation for future construction, and then most importantly for operation. So again, that's still under investigation and review. And then on the 18th, with the frozen conditions, we had 1,000-gallon double-walled diesel fuel tank that was noticed to be slowly dripping during an inspection, a morning inspection from the side of the tank. PCL, our EPC, their report, and the main cause was the tank being filled the previous day, and then something in the tank changed overnight with freezing conditions, causing it to basically seep out the top, across the top of the tank and down to the ground. It was a double-walled fuel tank. Immediate action was taken by PCL to remediate the spill. The estimate was approximately 2 to 3 gallons of diesel fuel leaked on top of the ground. The ground was still frozen. The leak was contained. A remediation abatement crew has been on site at the time of the report, and they removed this small area of contaminated soil. They took deeper soil samples to confirm that it didn't infiltrate deeper soil. FSEC and Ecology were notified of the spill. FSEC and Ecology were also notified of the basin event. Frequent monitoring still occurs with WSP. No findings reported to date. We did accommodate, a SWIP inspection from FSEC and Ecology yesterday. So we appreciate that and any feedback from that. And then as far as reports submitted to the FSEC staff last month, we submitted our Q4 2023 construction report and a revised SBCC plan.
Thank you. Are there questions from council members? Mr. Young?
Yeah, has that tank been inspected or repaired to ensure that if we get another cold snap, that the same thing doesn't happen again?
Yes, sir. That tank was immediately drained, inspected. Nothing was found to be wrong with the tank. They put provisions in place to basically not fill the tank to the fill line, to fill it with a less amount. And it's also in a excuse me. So it's a double walled tank, and one of the corrective actions was to go ahead and put it in a secondary containment too. So if it does decide to do this, which we don't expect it will now, that it'll be contained in that containment.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
High Top and Ostria project, and that is Ms. Randolph. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you.
I need to get my agenda back up. My apologies.
No worries.
Go ahead.
Chair Drew, council members, and staff. For the record, this is Sarah Randolph, site specialist for High Top and Ostria. SSEC staff are continuing to work with the developer on pre-construction requirements and plans. We have no other updates at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whistling Ridge project update, Mr. Caputo.
Thank you, Chair Drew and council members. Staff are working to schedule the hearings for the Whistling Ridge Energy Project's extension request and transfer request. Details of the hearing will be announced once they are available. May I answer any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Badger Mountain, Ms. Snarsky.
Thank you, Chair Drew, and good afternoon, council members. For the record, this is Joanne Snarsky, the siting specialist for Badger Mountain Solar. Efforts continue on the development of the supplemental cultural resources survey. A work plan has been completed for the initial pedestrian survey. Additionally, we are continuing to work with the Department of Natural Resources to obtain an access agreement for our subcontractors to state lands for the cultural resources survey. Finally, the findings of this survey will inform the cultural resources section of the draft environmental impact statement. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Snarsky? Thank you. Watoma Solar project, Mr. Caputo.
Thank you, Chair Drew and council members. Staff are continuing coordination with our contracted agencies, tribal staff, and the applicant to refine identified mitigation. Staff are continuing discussions with the Office of Administrative Hearings and our Attorney General's Office support team in preparation of adjudicative proceedings logistics. May I answer any questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you. Hop Hill Solar Project, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Chair Drew and council members. For the record, this is John Barnes, FSEC staff for the Hop Hill application. Work is still proceeding with the applicant to complete studies and reports needed to make a SEPA determination. We continue to coordinate and review the application with our contractor, contracted agencies, and tribal governments. Are there any questions?
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Carriger Solar. Ms. Snarsky.
Yes, thank you, Chair Drew and council members. For the record, this is Joanne Snarsky, the siting specialist for Carriger Solar. Cypress Creek Renewables, on behalf of Carriger Solar, submitted their original application for site certification in February of 2023. Since that time, staff have been working with the applicant to obtain more detailed information on the proposed facility regarding natural and cultural resources. As you recall, this also includes FSEC contracting with the Yakima Nation to complete a traditional cultural property study, which is anticipated to be completed in December of this year. In order to complete this additional work, the applicant is requesting an extension to April 1st, 2025. RCW 80.50.100 states that a recommendation must be made to the governor within 12 months of receipt of the application or such time as agreed upon by the council and the applicant. The extension request letter was posted for public comment ahead of today's meeting, and one public comment was received opposing the extension. Staff have coordinated with the applicant on the extension request and are recommending council members vote to approve. I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Snarsky?
Yeah, this is Matt Giles from Klickitat County. What was the comment that was received against? Did they have any reasonings for that?
The comment really was indicating that they thought there was sufficient time for the applicant to submit materials, but as you can hear from my update, there's a lot of back and forth at this process, and that we often, if not always, require more detailed information, and that's where we're at with this application.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the extension request for Carriger Solar to April 1, 2025?
Lenny Young, so moved.
Second?
Matt Childs, seconded.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The extension is approved. Thank you. Horse Heaven Wind Project.
Good afternoon, Council Chair Drew and FSEC Council members. For the record, this is Amy Moon reporting on the Horse Heaven Wind Project. Since issuing the Horse Heaven Wind Project Final Environmental Impact Statement, referred to as the Final EIS, on October 31st, 2023, FSEC staff had continued to address Council feedback and direction provided at Council meetings. At the January 31st, 2024 Council meeting, the Council directed FSEC staff to update several mitigation measures. These measures are for potential inclusion in a draft site certification agreement if the Council were to recommend the project for the Governor's approval. Staff continue to work on these updates within draft documents that will be provided to Council for review. I have nothing further to report. However, Sean Green has one brief note regarding a correction from his presentation to the Council at the last meeting on January 31st.
Thank you, Mrs. Green.
Okay. I was going to say, are there any questions before Sean takes over?
Are there any questions for Ms. Moon? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Okay, thank you, Amy, Chair Drew, and council members. I just want to share a quick image. During the previous council meeting in our discussions about mitigation, I had described this green colored line that you see as part of the project as the primary transmission line. That was a mischaracterization on my part. It is actually an optional intertie line that would connect the east and west substations for the project. This does not materially affect any of the considerations that the council has made, and it would still be classified as a secondary project component for the purposes of mitigation. But I just wanted to clarify that matter.
Any questions for Mr. Green? Okay, thank you. I think we also have information from Ms. Hofkemeyer. Oh, go ahead.
I think there's a question from Member Young.
Oh, I don't see it. Okay, Mr. Young.
No, my hand should be down. I do not have a question.
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Ms. Hofkemeyer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Drew and Council. For the record, this is Amy Hofkemeyer. At the January 31st Council meeting, the Council deliberated on mitigation measures related to impacts identified in the Horse Heaven Final EIS. Following the meeting, FSEC staff learned that Councilmember Brost experienced technical difficulties during the call and ultimately was unable to cast his vote for each of the Council's motions concerning mitigation and Council's direction to FSEC staff. Following the meeting, Councilmember Brost provided his votes to staff, which we would like to note for the record today. And this will be a little lengthy, so bear with me. The motions from the January 31st Council meeting were as follows. Motion 1, propose that the areas of the wind micrositing corridor containing the red-colored Class 3 impact turbines as identified within figures 2-5 and 2-6 of the FEIS be excluded. The Council has determined that these turbines would be highly impactful to a number of sensitive resources and directs staff to ensure that mitigation within a potential SCA exclude any of these identified turbines from being sited in this area. As proposed, BCs 5 would have the effect of excluding all of the targeted turbines, and Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. Motion 2, proposed that new mitigation measure VEG 10 be developed to exclude the siting of any solar arrays on rabbit brush shrubland or WDFW designated priority habitat. Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. Motion 3, proposed that the wildlife corridor mitigation from the final EIS, HAB 1, be modified to exclude any primary project components, specifically turbines, solar arrays, and BESS, from being sited within any wildlife movement corridors modeled as medium to very high linkage by the Washington Wildlife Habitat Connectivity Working Group. Councilmember Brost was in favor of this motion. Motion 4 proposed that the wildlife corridor mitigation from the final EIS, identified as HAB 1, be modified to exclude any secondary project components such as roads and power lines from being sited within any wildlife movement corridors modeled as high to very high linkage by the Washington Wildlife Habitat Connectivity Working Group unless co-located with existing infrastructure. Any secondary components to be sited within medium to very high linkage corridors would require a corridor mitigation plan as outlined in HAB 1. Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. Motion 5 proposed that the ferruginous hawk mitigation from the final EIS, species 5, be modified to exclude the siting of any wind turbines within 2 miles of a documented ferruginous hawk nest, excluding the siting of any solar arrays or BESS within 0.5 miles of a documented ferruginous hawk nest, and only allow siting of solar arrays or BESS from a 0.5 to 2 mile of a documented nest if the applicant can demonstrate that the nesting site is unavailable, the foraging habitat is not viable, and produces a mitigation and management plan. Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. Motion 6 proposed that the ferruginous hawk mitigation from the final EIS, species 5, be modified to require that prior to siting any secondary components, such as roads, transmission lines, interconnections, within 2 miles of a documented nest, the applicant demonstrate that the nesting site is unavailable, the foraging habitat is not viable, and produces a mitigation and management plan. Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. And finally, motion 7 proposed that a new mitigation measure, CR3, be developed to exclude the siting of any project components east of Straub Canyon to reduce anticipated impacts to traditional cultural properties. Councilmember Brost is in favor of this motion. Are there any questions on that discussion?
Are there any questions from Horseheaven council members?
This said, Brost, can I add a question here?
Certainly.
In the email that I sent regarding my votes on these 7 motions, I asked a question about, was there a vote taken or will there be a vote taken on the original project as proposed as a result of motions 1 through 7 now? Or is that not necessary?
Thank you for the question. I do know Ms. Hofgemeyer was calling to discuss your questions with you. And
Right.
no, there was not. We will only we will address motions that are put forward by council members when we have a final discussion, but they're not necessary to have any of those put forward. We will be voting on what's in front of us as the mitigated project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. And I think that concludes our update on the Horseheaven Wind Farm. Moving on to the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project update. This is still a pre-application process and has not been brought forward to the council at this point. Ms. Belkina.
Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. We have held public information meetings on the pre-application process, and We expect application around June and nothing, no routine update now.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the next part of our agenda, employee updates. Catherine Taliaferro, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Drew. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave Walker, Director of Administrative Services for FSEC. We have a couple of staffing changes that were happening this month, and I first wanted to introduce our new records manager, Catherine Taliaferro. She comes to us from the Healthcare Authority. Catherine, would you mind saying a few words?
Good afternoon, Chair Drew and council members. My name is Catherine Taliaferro. Prior to coming to FSEC, I was the records officer for the Washington State Healthcare Authority, overseeing their public records programs. I'm just excited to join the FSEC team and looking forward to be able to work with all of you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And secondly, I wanted to make formal recognition today of a outgoing employee. Lisa Massengale has been our records manager for the past year plus here at FSEC, and she is leaving us at the end of this month. Lisa has done an absolute outstanding job since the inception of FSEC in June of 22 in establishing our records program, procedures, and everything associated with a functional records program for a standalone agency. So Lisa, thank you very much for all of your effort and hard work these past months. You did a fantastic job, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Dave. Also, I want to say to Lisa, I think all the council members know well the hours and labor you put through to help make our adjudication run as smoothly as possible in August, as well as the parties and everybody else who participated in that. So please join me in thanking Lisa and giving her a huge round of applause for all her work. Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Drew.
Okay. If there's nothing else to come before us today, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.